Okay, we're on.
Yeah, call to order the meeting for the East Town Planning and Zoning Commission for June 24th, 2025. Can I have attendance, please?
Barry Brown,
Here.
James Curtin. Here. Chris Pettinelli.
Here.
Gerhard Gillis.
Here.
Deborah Langen.
Here.
Tony Devane, absent. Susan Kinsman.
You have to change the alt. She's got an alternate.
Nobody's an alternate anymore.
No one. Steve's not here and.
Steve withdrew.
Yeah.
So he's on too, so we're short.
Two alternates.
Two alternates, yeah.
Okay, minutes of our past meeting, which was June 10th.
Right there on the third page of the bills. I made the motion to pay it, but I don't know what that means. Says law firm Jacobson and goes to discussion of the acceptance.
Vote acceptance of a road.
Oh, okay, well, just to add something in there, so if I didn't know what the hell it meant, could anybody else? The other thing is, add on page 2, number 6, second paragraph down, it was the features state 8 detached buildings, 4 two-story structures with ground floor, ground, and 2 bedroom apartments above, a single commercial building, and 3 additional. Says houses built for storage, it should be additional buildings for storage.
Additional storage.
Something like that. And at the bottom of the last paragraph, it says wetlands and existing, it should say stone walls, because there's no one. So I have. Anything else?
Anyone else? I guess we'll take the minutes as amended.
What's the meaning of? So in the minutes, it never said we can. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Curtin.
Do you wanna bring attention to
Take
that?
one turn.
So we just got one from Halloran and Sage for additional $40. We had paid the previous balance. This was for a combined zoning and building letter to somebody about lack of permits. So it kind of ran it by Attorney Willis. Just a quick review.
Let's all see what it was. Motion to pay the bill, so moved. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, can we make a motion to change order of business? So moved. Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Sorry to home occupations.
So no farm stand. Here's the this is the one that copy clipped out the box. Keep that one for signing. The notices were sent out because she wants to make so she wanted to create an account. Of course, the bank said you need to go do this.
Where was this check?
So you go past you go past the stream as you're starting to climb up the hill to Mount Manassas on the right hand side. She already has an existing farm stand, but when she tried to create a separate business account there, jammed things up. Yeah, she's got a big party. She's got a long driveway. Turn around at the top of the driveway. It's got the garden in the front, the raised beds, but if you drive up the driveway, there's a turnaround at the top.
Can you ask for the parking sign?
Sure.
Because I've never noticed and.
I've actually never
And part of
noticed.
the way that this doesn't really impact me, and not really far, of course, that doesn't impact me, but, you know, going by, like, I don't know where people pull in, and that's not a road, that's not a spot on that road you want to just pull.
I've actually never noticed anybody parking stuff.
I haven't either,
Never
but,
seen anybody.
I mean, you know, it's a $15 sign or something that
Yeah.
goes up and
Yeah.
point them up to where they, but I don't know where to park, and I go by that thing.
Yeah.
every day.
Do we park for the narrow?
Yeah, something like that, you know, just to.
Pull up the driveway, yeah. Instead of parking.
The Parnassus, especially that section of Parnassus, you don't want people on that.
Sure. Any idea of their hours?
I think she put that out there.
It just says farm stand Thursday. It's,
First of December.
Typically daylight, it's usually daylight, I mean, nobody.
Have any questions? Well,
which is
parking. So the line that says wax there, perhaps, set right there. Roll. Should you come up?
That's all I think.
Just today or the other day?
It's in this week.
motion to approve application twenty-four -10 34 Francis Road, property location Mary Smith, applicant property located at 128 horticulture, garden, falls, and so.
I'll second.
If we can do that, I'd like to, put a requirement of parking sign be placed,
The addition that the
traffic up the driveway.
parking sign be added to the.
Second by Susan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Which one do you want me to sign?
The one with the handwriting on it.
Okay, do you have any land use administration? report?
So the former Cumberland Farms actually submitted part of their application, so I did a review and said, okay, we're 80% there. They have to come back with, and they had it before, but I wanted to make sure between Roger Nemeth and them that the previous lighting plan matched his site plan, which Roger said he'd review. Their signage plan needs to come in. And they also need to, they want a drive-in window, I said they need to get the cut sheets for the sound of those boxes. So that, you know, that'll be put it to decibel level that's required by regulation. So hopefully, they'll have that soon.
Anything else? What's going on with Bailey Beach and wetlands? I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
They won't have to go to that.
There you go.
No, they come to us for a special exception.
They're gonna rehab that building, right?
Yeah, they're keeping they had a structural engineer go in there and say it's fine, they put a new roof on it, so. You know,
I'm just surprised.
Yeah.
So what's going on with Bailey Beach and they're putting sand down and
yeah, I've gotta go out there and
that was like 2 weeks ago.
was it, I just heard about it in the last week. Last Tuesday, so I gotta go out there.
2 weeks ago.
You called me,
I called you 2 weeks ago. Maybe even 3.
called Randy.
And I called you.
I've had a tough couple of weeks, so maybe
Well, I
not.
know, but
Yeah, so I gotta go out there approach, but it's out there already.
oh yeah, now it's
Yeah.
all spread out.
So he's gotta come and pull permits for it.
I didn't
But
think they could.
Well, I actually did email the East Hampton Land Trust and said, okay, what's the scoop about your conditions, and I haven't got an answer back on
Yes.
that. I don't know, that's the question I asked,
Yes.
on the spreading of sand.
I heard of the lawsuit.
There's other than cutting envelope, yes, it's,
But they have
Yeah.
put piles of sand in like 3 places and now it's all spread out. So, and I know Rainier said he was gonna address it at Wetland, so I was just kind of curious where it might have gone.
also a violation of their easement. Well, that's what I asked the interest, and I haven't got an answer back on that.
Just so you, Bailey's Beach is on Haitian Lake. And it's under the land trust and it was sold, and there's just a lot of things going on that aren't supposed to be under the guise of the gentleman who put all the restrictions on Bailey, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
he did it.
so property was sold with an easement. Big ones.
Who's gotta deal with enforcing this?
Well, the easement is held by the East Town Land Trust.
Very good, so they don't wanna deal with that. It's like deed restrictions, same thing.
Have you gone out to talk to Nairo yet? Nairo, right on the corner of 82.
I have emailed him several times, and in fact said he was gonna come back in and fill out all those applications.
Is there another company, farm center needs to build a
Yeah,
parking
I've,
sign out there? This is right on the corner of Cold Spring and 82. But
I
across
actually-
from where the gas station used to be.
I actually advised him to move the stand to the front of his property and put a sign saying move it to here.
I'll go into my, the road, and there are cars on 82, there are cars on Cold Spring Road, and there's people walking over, and there've been horrific accidents. Over the years.
That's a really bad call.
It's you're right there.
I've seen accidents there.
So, you can put that on my list. That's just a big follow.
And again, that would be a sign directly into the driveway.
Somewhere.
Yep.
There's no parking.
Having this stand right at the intersection.
Yeah, not good enough.
Literally it's right on that corner.
Yeah, that's a lot of speed there.
A lot of speed, blind corner. I think people have died there in accidents. Okay. Ludus master plan. Everyone have a chance to go over it?
Yeah, you want to do.
Did you get your copy? Oh no, you weren't here.
Yeah, I was at town.
Right, got it.
Got it. Thank you.
I think Rich was had brought up the point about trying to bring out the past and how they needed to write more about it. Did you want to alter this, change it?
I was hoping for like a whole section or a couple sections.
Okay.
That defines what we're trying to fix here, right?
Correct.
So this is what we come up with, right?
Well, no, I asked him to take a look at, actually Simon's article,
Bob, did you
four
get a copy?
pieces.
Yeah, I got a copy.
Okay. No, but of changes that they,
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
there's extra right up here. Sorry to interrupt, I apologize.
So I kinda told him, why don't you just take a look at Simon's posted 4-part series? I said, the only thing that he's got wrong in the whole thing was, he said that most of the septics were working, and that's absolutely not true, cause
They
I
were,
lived
the
there.
river is.
The river was right there, I know.
Yeah.
So, but other than that,
Trust me, I know.
It wasn't any place for him to go, so.
so other than that, I said it's a pretty accurate article, and this is what he just, I got this at 2 hours.
I was thinking it was a couple paragraphs. Kind of into the issue of what was told, what was promised, what we have, and what we have. I mean, this, when you read this, it sounds like it had to get done. Now, I wasn't here when this happened, but from everything I've heard, we could have fixed the buildings, we could have done something. This makes it sound like it all had to come down and it was all in the rear.
When no, it's probably every other building there could have been saved. It might have been savable, some were not, could have.
Well, why don't we work on it?
A big part of our push right now is like, we've had something we could have worked with, we bought into the promise, we ripped it all down, only got nothing. This makes it sound, it kind of makes it sound like the urban renewal had to happen. And again, it wasn't here, everything I always heard, and I read the article, it didn't seem that way to me.
Yeah, it's been some time after the historical society. And model, I don't know if everybody's seen the
Yes.
model.
Mhm.
I'd love a picture of that. And that's
Yeah, I mean, some.
Sure.
That might be a good contrast, right there.
show people what, they have in mind, and then also pictures of buildings taken down.
Right.
So it's a nice homes.
And that's
beautiful.
They were
trying to
actually
get
built
over
for homes.
aiming to take
They were
something
taking
like that
it
back.
Focus is on the row of, houses on.
That's one thing, yeah, but there were other nice
Yeah.
homes that went too.
Yeah. And my question was, what was in the Lucas Plaza? The pizza places before Swamp.
Swamp. Literally, I know.
Was that, I don't remember, it was, well,
It was a swamp because I remember when I was a teenager, I worked at Lucas Lumber and across the street, they used to dump sheet rock and crap in there. It was dead swamp, you had to worry about getting stuff,
Village?
yeah.
right there. Directly across from the open entrance.
That was wetlands?
Well, it was
Well,
trapped
in
water,
back
put
then.
it that way. You know, there was an old building there originally, I think it blew down in one of the hurricanes in the fifties or even earlier, but what they call it? It's off the so, it was a big building there. I know about it only because the lumber got saved out of there and it's, barn, there you go. Nobody wastes stuff back in those days. I do have some things that I didn't mention. Okay, so on page 18, the zoning, it says the Moody Center District, the MCD. So when you go farther into the, and they mention it several times, it's this the center district, whatever you wanna call it. But then farther up on like 44, they started referring to it as the MCD and the MDC. And so what here I have, on page 50. It says integrate low impact development, LID principles into the Moody Center District, MDC, and then they started referring to it as the MDC. So, yeah. I know it's just done, but on 50.
Oh, I see, yeah,
Yeah, he just
So
started.
Yeah, it
keep
just-
changing it.
yeah.
Yeah, and he talks about Moody Center District and then calls it the MDC right at the top.
Yeah, that's just a switch of
Yeah, he just started switching.
Probably the
type of.
MDC is,
Yeah, right, that's what I was thinking. Cause I was reading it and going, wait a minute, I thought this was the.
So I think we know what that person's also working on.
Hey, that's probably what it is.
So we'll clean that up, have we clean that up?
The other thing I was gonna mention about is when we're talking about that island and Rotary, that we should incorporate kinda, you see what they did across the river, they ran like a row of trees up, they almost made it like an avenue looking thing for a couple hundred feet. We might be able to do that there, and that would even add to that center look that we're looking for, because it's pretty wide going up to the bank. And the reason you can't do it now, let's say, is because you wanna take that left-hand turn there, but when you have to go through the circle, then you can deal with the trees being, but you're never taking that left, you only come around it. I think we could add to that circle by adding a little bit of an avenue thing in each direction, actually, a little bit.
Each direction,
Yeah.
not just
And
up the hill.
that would just make it more of a, real center focus, 'cause that's what we're kind of at.
How do you push that?
Well, it's part of the design, I mean, I think, at some point we're gonna be redoing the, conservation cooperative. Maybe we've got a couple years, 2 more years, yeah. Add it to that or something. I'm just saying, I thought about that avenue look, and we can add a little row going in each direction just to make it more attractive. The other thing that's common in here that we talk about, which kind of on some of it is they talk about reducing the radii on intersections and stuff. I'm like, which ones are you talking about? Because when you come up from Brownells and you're a truck and trailer, you have to take a right on 151. You have to get in the left-hand lane to start truck and trailer on top. And you gotta, because you see how tight the curve is against the park. It's super tight there. I mean, maybe something can be done with that intersection if we're gonna bother to change a bunch of park on the other
The other
side.
road?
Well, I mean, it's really not adequate.
Well, that one lane road, they're thought, you know.
Yeah, well, I used to cut up there because I could avoid that, because I've pulled up there and seen, wow, there's a lot of cars, and because I'm maybe just pulling something over with. It still needs to be negotiable for trucks.
Well, they plan on reducing the area.
Well, he mentions it at-
Talking about doing bump outs, you know,
Well,
narrow it down.
the other place that he mentions it is coming out of Muda Center, making that one way or whatever, anyway. I kind of opposed to that because a lot of the guys that come in for lunch and all the rest, they're like landscapers and trailers, and they're coming in, if you reduce the ease in which you get in and out of that place, you're gonna
Agreed.
get some customers with that, and that's,
But if-
you can't afford it.
If you were to fix the 5% of
Well-
you could do a mountable curb island, so that. You
Well,
know,
that
the
could- yeah.
typical guy's gonna go slower, but you can drive over.
But you know, if you look at when you're driving out of the village on the main one onto 149, if you wanna take a right, it's got like a 5-foot radius curve there, and that's nowhere near adequate. I mean, that's so tight that, and that, if you look at it, you'll see everybody's driving over the curves. And if you're a truck and trailer, and there's not a lot of that traffic, but there are guys going through there, because they pick up lunch.
Yeah.
Stop, I do it, like ice cream, whatever, but you have to get in the other lane for sure, in order to take it right, and you're still driving, with the trailers on, you're driving on the curb anyway. So the 5-foot radius curb on the exit is just not adequate.
And we received funding to fix 149.
Yeah, well,
We would have to, here's some conduct.
well, he was recommending we made that one way where you can't, when you pull out of,
We wouldn't get that, there's no way, you know, well, we.
that's the main
you know, we
entrance and
might-
exit. I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, so, you know, so the radii would have to conform to,
Yeah.
to commercial standards.
I don't know how it
So
ever
that would
became a
fix the
5-footer,
5-footer,
but it
right,
is.
that would be at least 25. But the other thing you could do there, and I would recommend, because I do think, you know, wide open ones are a problem, is you could put a center mountable island.
Oh.
So a truck can go over it, but a car knows to avoid it, right, you know, like they have in the roundabout, like the interstateable roundabout, where it's mountable. Across the river. Across the river. They even have it at the biggest thing I know. 81 and 80, there's a whole bunch of them.
81 and 80, if you come down 81 and you take that right on 80,
Yeah, you're all.
your entire
But that's-
trailer is completely off of the
but that-
drivable lane, completely.
That's why you do that.
Why you
can't
have
make
to-
it big enough to satisfy the 10% of trucks that come through the fiber.
There's a lot of trucks, 80.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it comes in at a sharp angle. So cut-
Those Glastonbury's too.
Or the ones off on Hooper Avenue. And those are granite curbs, those things are not, I mean, you would dare not drive a truck through that.
You're not big enough to do a gap there, it's still stopping.
Oh, it's sharp curb on inside and outside. I don't know why it'd be there.
So you're saying all these things should be
No.
taken care of.
Are you also,
Yeah, I'm not sorry.
Susan? Yeah.
I wanted to just elaborate on Rich's point that we can flesh out this paragraph. It's a good, bare bones kind of summary of what happened, but if we're then the next paragraph talking about we're suffering from a lack of clear identity, I think we would need to elaborate some of the points that are in the 1967 Plan of Development Planning proposals that talked about what were those promises, what were the assumptions that were made in order for that plan to go forward. And then the miscalculations for population growth doomed the renewal plan to failure. So where are we on those calculations of population growth? Are we in the same position? So are we coming up with another plan that's doomed to failure because we haven't addressed the underlying issues that form the basis of the plan of development in 1967? So I think you could break those out as 3 separate bullets, or be summary paragraphs, and then also include more photographs. We have in here, photographs of suggested streetscapes for the development area. We can use the photographs of what we had there before as just a reference point on what we're trying to restore in some shape or form.
Do you still have copies of what the state proposed and the hard copy that I've given you?
Of the hard copy of the
The actual
67 plan.
development that they have proposed, remember,
Yeah.
do this and stuff.
Oh, yeah,
They might wanna, I know we passed it out for the subcommittee,
well, I
but this
think I have it on the computer.
commission, yep. Maybe you could send that out, that pipe.
It predicted a population of 30,000 by 1990.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it was up there.
Pratt-Whitney was gonna grow forever.
So on page 55, they reference this proposed treatment, sorry. That's where we could use photographs of what it looked like before.
What page are we on?
55.
Looks like Weathersfield. I understood that they took a bunch of people on a bus and took them to Washington Depot, cutesy little downtown, and they said this is what it's supposed to look like. That's what I read someplace.
I never heard that. Did you hear it?
Yeah. It's,
I think it was on that website
Yeah.
on the history.
They took a bus.
So they took a bus and they're like, here, so speaking of identity and what was promised, they literally used Washington Depot as the inspiration.
Washington DC Depot?
No.
No.
No, that's Washington.
Washington Depot, Connecticut.
Depot's the town.
Oh, okay,
Apparently it's a very quaint, cute town,
okay.
Chester-esque. And so that was demonstrated as the promise.
So how do
I-
we wanna handle
I'd like to
doing
see that
this?
referenced in the material.
People wanna kinda work on it separately, then we get together and next meeting we can put it all together. You reckon for that use?
Well, can we get all the pictures and stuff?
They're working on that right now.
Okay, so
They
we
are.
wanna get some more stuff.
They're working on, I mean, I gave them a list of the last, from our last meeting.
Well, I
Number
think,
one,
I think it's a good idea to show where they tried to tell us we were going and where we ended up.
Yeah.
Okay,
How would you like
that
to
didn't work.
do that?
Well, I mean, let's get everything we can get from whoever and see what they come up with, and then we'll finalize
Have a
whether we
copy
think
of the
it's acceptable.
1967 plan available, readily available.
Sure.
Yes,
I'm gonna pick it out, I've got it on the computer.
Because I'm happy to draft a couple of paragraphs that reflect what I was looking for.
you also wanna put down your ideas? That's fine.
I could go to Google Maps street, views and
Do you
show what,
wanna send it out to us all afterwards, or do you wanna wait for it?
Yeah,
I think we still have some time.
Yeah.
so.
66, that might be a brief version of it, I've got it
That's what
all.
we're shooting for, which isn't
Yeah.
until, what's the next one, August or is it July?
What's
The
that?
referendum,
July 22nd, so we need to actually move.
okay.
Okay.
So if we can,
Got one.
I don't wanna give you a ton of work, but if you
If
can get
we
it done,
have
then
it,
we can, yeah.
uh,
if you
and
pick
I
the
can
basis, we maybe can more ideas.
take a look at it and it's not gonna be,
Anyone else? Sorry.
We don't wanna make it a sob story, but we wanna set the picture as to why we think we deserve things. Where do you wanna go and how do we go?
So as I mentioned at the last meeting, they're gonna prioritize areas they think we need us.
Actually, we talked about that and he said, well, I'm gonna kind of need some input from the committee to, talk about those priorities. He says, once I get to my 95 percentile, then we can do that. And he said, even then, you can go to your 95 percentile and bring it to the public to comment on, and maybe that'll help prioritize and button everything up.
So are we gonna do the thing on the 22nd here?
That would be if they go ahead and move forward with the vote that day, I can have this thing open from 8 o'clock in the morning all day long.
So if we
So the
do that,
people-
we need to, the one thing I asked him, I said, you know, we don't have a lot of people, and he told me straight out, it was up to this commission to advertise it, so somehow we have to get the word out, but the word didn't get out the last time. You know,
The
social,
problem-
through social media, Facebook,
Twitter.
all that.
And you can only bring them to the water, you can't force them to
No,
drink
no,
it.
no, I realize that,
I
but half the
mean-
people, no one knew about it.
Well,
You know, you also have to go to the younger generation too, you know, they're the ones who are gonna be online.
I'll give it to Linda, so we have a Facebook page there, that's the best we can do, can't create
I'm
a
sure
new-
young people are monitoring East Haven's Facebook page all the time.
Right.
Yeah, not really.
Do we have it in our budget?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is Buddhist master plan, you know, proposes prison.
It's not-
That'll get everybody's attention. Then in the fine print, will tell me I have to show up here.
Maybe some of the businesses in Moodus can put a flyer up.
Well, that was gonna say, we have money for a flyer.
Yeah.
To start putting it up, businesses and
Yeah,
stuff.
Shagbark maybe, or
Oh, yeah.
Ice cream.
How's our budget?
We can make.
I think the front page of it is.
Would be good.
Yeah.
We're only using you.
Got Bob.
Oh, you give me the information and yeah, you will.
Alright,
But we have
It's
to
on you,
put
Jim.
it in for a couple weeks.
Bob information.
Oh, yeah.
Alright.
But we also need it in for not just 1 week, but like maybe 2 consecutive
series?
weeks.
like a series.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At home.
Well, are we pushing it? I mean, I know it's a nice opportunity to get people here to come and vote. Already, not be good, but are we pushing it too fast? And we're also hitting summer, which is mixed in this time. Normally you wouldn't have a public meeting in the summertime because people are on vacation. In this time, some of them are on vacation here.
Here.
But it's just open for consideration, are we pushing it too fast and do we need to, you know, make sure our ducks in a row before we implement it?
That would be amazing.
I mean, I don't think so, because isn't this thing modifiable almost at any
Yeah.
time? If we got something we thought was worthy, I mean, you go, hey, we should change that, or add a paragraph or whatever, I mean, it's always modifiable, just like the plan of conservation development. We can change it if we want to, or add to it.
But the last referendum, we had fewer than 1,000 people, so this
So
referendum.
that's 995, you know, more than we had to walk through here,
So having the display up on the 22nd, but it may be also better to have the plan up on the website
Oh, it's gotta be.
and, you know, either a PowerPoint presentation that kind of outlines the summary of where it is, what the timetable is for adopting. And so we steer people to the website and say, you know, we really need your comments and suggestions, and you need to be able, you know, this is where you have an opportunity to review it. People are not gonna sit through a 2-hour, you know, public hearing or presentation on how that's in the middle of summer, it's not gonna happen.
Well, the idea was, because it was all day long, is to kind of have
Right.
a walkthrough with the boards, so we get to see it. And fortunately, my computer works well enough that I can sit here and, yeah, it's
But
nice.
to have those slides available, so people could just look at it at their leisure, and know that there's a time certain where we have to make a decision, I think would be beneficial.
Because we could see after we see what we get for input, whether we got considerable input, or we barely had anybody show up, maybe we need to spend more time.
You could also post it with a
We can
Google
make that
form,
decision.
asking people to comment on changes that they would wanna see, so that they can submit their comments as they review the information, and we can review those responses.
We'll find out.
Yeah, that last point was, we have a schedule for sidewalk. Improvements. Look at it in sections.
Oh, you mean, we had broken up into pieces,
Yeah.
phase one, phase
Phase two,
two.
next phase.
The next phase was going through to connect to the senior center.
That's the next.
Yeah, because that was a dangerous one. And then Cause it already is already up to the senior housing, so the idea of getting them through there to that way was, made sense. And the other thought was extending up to the elementary school, and then the last leg was Joe Williams Roads and high school. And when we worked back in 2004 or whatever it was with Malone and McBroom. So,
On the sidewalk.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what those are the four pieces.
Well, all this does add infrastructure that you gotta maintain. It's down the road, those things get fixed. And they last 20, 30 years, maybe even less.
So look at this, the old sidewalk going down Main Street, the old Main Street. Most people don't even know it's there. From my old house.
Yeah.
It just was never been a thing, whether it was a reason.
Well, not many people use it, that's for sure.
They used to.
But once you start putting in this infrastructure,
They used it.
up comes maintenance. You gotta get the snow off, you gotta keep up with it, things heave, and you gotta fix, I mean,
And then is it, it used to be that if the sidewalk was in front of your house, you were responsible for keeping it clean. Is it still that in the town?
it still has that ordinance, but it's kind of, ridiculous if you're trying to provide safe, adequate ways, and we have a vent track material, equipment that could just do it all in one shot.
It's for finance and stuff.
Are you volunteering
you
again?
got shovel and
Top of
carry,
the hill all the way to the first driveway.
town will buy a machine for it.
Mr. Kasner, would you like to add anything to our conversation or EDC?
Yeah, I think that photos is the thing that I think is going to be probably the most people can relate to when they see a photograph of it. And I mean, there's a photograph of every one of those buildings they took down with an appraisal, with also a little description. It was all part of the appraisal when they did their taking there. And so there's a whole booklet on every one of those buildings. There's 34 of them. And with a picture and a description and also saying what their deficiencies were. And some of them were pretty stretching for deficiencies when they were talking about bedrooms without closets and I mean stuff that was ridiculous kind of stuff. So if you could get, and those were the ones that were over on the hill where basically restaurant is now and basically part of the way you but I think if you had all of those, and of course the stone mill was a masterpiece. I mean, that was such a beautiful building. I mean, we would love to have it. It was right on the river. I mean, talk about an ideal spot for a restaurant, and it was just such a beautiful building. And I think that those kind of pictures would say an awful lot as to what we lost. And then all you need is a photograph of what's there. And there's sure no comparison between what we lost and what we got. And as you say, that model is there, and that says a lot too. That's up at the Historical Society. I mean, it looked very good, and I remember people saying, I voted for this because of the model.
You have to understand it was the fall. Everybody wanted something modern.
That was what was happening in New Haven, that was happening in our earlier cities, we're tearing down everything. But that program was not made for small towns, that was made for the cities, for the Bridgeports and all those places that were trying to put major highways through residential areas. But I think that if we gave a good illustration of those buildings that were there, and every one of them has a good picture too. And I think that that was on one board, it would be pretty interesting, especially if you showed where they were sitting and go from there. You could just kind of give a layout, what it was.
Are those photos at the Historical Society also?
Yeah, most of them are, but it's also, the town clerk's office has the, it was part of the redevelopment and the appraisals at the time. And it's actually, those were with the appraisals of each one of the properties.
Sure. You've seen
I
it,
saw it.
how long ago?
I've seen all those
15 years ago.
in the town clerk. Okay, cause I tried to save a whole bunch from the attic. So I don't know. That's why I thought I gave them to Carl.
I thought Carl stopped to put something together.
Alright.
All those historical things.
I
I
go
can ask
Thursday to the historical society, see if they know.
Yeah,
In
I
Boston.
would probably say, gave you that book, because there was a whole book on it.
Yeah. The whole book was together,
Okay,
And they had to have those at the time for the appraisals. That's what those were from the appraisal. I think, yeah, if those could be found, if copies needed that, I think it'd be quite interesting.
34 properties, you said? 34 properties?
34 buildings, yeah, 34 buildings
I
in
didn't
and out.
realize that.
I mean, me either, I didn't know the number was that high. Wow.
My
34,
question
that's a
to you
lot.
is,
With that stone, no, that would have been enough to.
who's the stone mill? Is that where Red Mill Road is?
so when you have the bridge, as you go down Red Mill Road, you're looking at that bridge, the arched bridge.
Yeah.
On the left-hand side, right there, there's a set of stairways to a spring, and just up from that spring was the mill. Now, if you wanna see the mill, to go look at all the riprap on that bridge, it's granite. Granite, squared off block, because Hoodsey knocked it down and used it for riprap.
Yeah,
We
Beautiful.
also went into a lot of fireplaces.
Well, I mean, it's beautiful, beautiful cut and
Bill
granite.
Hood was selling a lot of that stone, and
Yeah,
every basement in town wanted that stone.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Lost a lot on that.
All stone, beautiful mill, and Bill Hood told me, he said that thing was a bear to knock it down, he took it down with a ball. And he said that was a bear to get that damn thing down. So that thing was built.
Probably didn't wanna take it down. I think it's beautiful.
I feel like they had to remove it.
Because they relocated North Ludus Road
Oh.
down through it. So the toe of the slope was, right where the building was, and they put this, pipe, like, at least they sized the pipe properly. They got that right.
Okay. Anything else on this at this point? Got a whole list of stuff.
Yep.
Susan, you're good? Okay. Anyone else? BB Road?
So BB Road, as I said before, they're waiting for the budget to pass to do the as-built so they can figure out where railings go. On the other part of it, they are almost to the 80 percentile on drawings, and they said they're gonna be submitting to us, cause it'll be under a scenic road in the 8-24 plus wetlands.
Would you do me a favor and send off a letter to Randy Gill or to the Gills stating where we are on all this? Because I know,
Well, I just reported the same information at the
Okay,
last
as long
wetlands
as-
meeting.
because I know they're.
Yep.
Okay.
And they said that I kind of looked at their preliminary plans, and it's 15 pages, and I said, might as well submit it full. I thought there'd be some cut sheets that just didn't have any value, but every piece had except for one page. I said, just submit the thing full when you finish it. So that'll be coming our way soon.
Banner Estates. Here we are on Banner Estates. Everyone think about it, what do you think?
Here,
Stephanie, you wanna, any update on that? That we can talk about?
Yeah, basically, I mean, we're looking to take and make the owners an offer on the property.
So,
We met with the Board of Selectmen last week, and they voted basically to have us go to the Board of Finance to determine whether we wanted to do something like this and pursue it, and also to come up with the number. So we were basically seeing, that was obviously a big step, now we're going to take and see they're the ones who control the money, and say whether this is something that we wanna do. I think that, planning and zoning is a big part of this, because basically this board knows more about Banner Estates out there than the Board of Finance. You've got the history, you know what you approved out there, you know what's going on with residents out there, and I think that this is probably one way in which to improve a situation that we have. And it's not the only alternative, but it's one alternative, is if the town takes it over and improves that golf course. And I think makes it an economic base for Mutis. Mutis needs to take and draw people in. We can't survive, but there's 2,000 people basically that, you know, work out or basically buy things in Mutis. And they need to take and basically have something, and basically the golf course is the only thing we have for a major draw. That'll draw 200, 300 people per day on that golf course, and that's what its history is. So I think that you know, EDC is certainly encouraging the town to take it over, get it running, and get it up and going, and make an asset out of that again. So that's where we are.
Should the Board of Select, I mean, if the Board of Finance, let's say, approves it, when does it come back to planning? When would it come to us, or does it?
So if it was a outright purchase, it'd come back to us as a public improvement under 8-24. Just like a open space purchase or a school
But we
property
got a warrant
purchase.
recommendation.
And would that happen before it went to referendum?
Also have to go to open space because of the easement that's on the property.
If that was part of the discussion, yeah. I mean, it may or may not. It's a final. There's a section that's under conservation easement,
Yes,
large section.
there's quite a bit of section that's there in the conservation.
You remember off the top,
It's 100 acres
100 acres.
of basically what's under a conservation easement right now that we're talking.
And then when you have the other open space, or is that considering all the conservation and open space that's there?
This is what's basically conservation on the property, which would be the property that's owned by Banner Estates.
Okay. The main thing we also have to look at is if they do approve it, if they don't approve it, then the build out up there is, could be 330 houses or apartments. So.
Was that approval for 300?
300. Yeah, 333 was the,
That's a 333.
Yep.
So that you can't keep in front of this commission.
Right.
Was the 333 reallocate those 333 to golf course without coming back?
they'll have to come back.
Yeah.
They'll have to come back because it's a modification of its new plan.
So it wouldn't behoove us to talk about it at this point until the town does its,
Due diligence, yep.
So just for the clarity on the status of those 330, we got water,
It has water,
okay, but it hasn't got a sewer.
it does not have the solar.
What's the timeline on that? Almost 5 years?
We could apply for extension.
Yeah,
well, they put an extension.
But they're coming up on it, aren't they?
coming up on 10 years, 10 years. I wanna say 2017, but I'll check.
Let's see,
Here a while.
that's before we were in this,
Oh, yeah.
epic rain.
When's the last time Fowler was started water business?
I would take and say never. I would say never. I don't ever remember them doing this. This is, this would be something very different, and also something that, you know, we're looking for this to be a money source for the town.
They're buying it, businesses buying it. Recreation facility. How's this different than a property?
It isn't, because the thing is though, right now they pay taxes to the golf course, but they're not gonna be, the town owns it, they're not paying any taxes. negative. It might be a draw for Munis, but it's up to that, so.
Yeah, but after time, when it starts to, right, then you'll end up making cash and then we'll make a profit.
Well,
But that's
pay
down the
itself-
road.
Pay itself off over 30 years.
Yeah,
We're taking and seeing basically there's a cash flow immediately and basically it takes 4.5 years and basically you're basically making money.
It doesn't pay taxes.
No, but you'll be making a lot more money than you paying in taxes.
Okay, all your.
The taxes are going to be a small amount as compared to what the income
See.
that golf course is.
But making money isn't payback.
I think the payback is what we're looking for is to not lose an 18-hole golf course in the town of East Hampton. Because that is something so valuable, because you can't ever get it back. Once they build houses out there, it's going to be gone. And I think it's a huge asset for the town that we shouldn't let go.
And that's a nuanced approach.
Yeah.
But yeah.
what else have people come to town?
Right, we just got done with a half hour session in leadership and we agree. Don't put thinking of laws people here. It's not happening. We can have the grandiose plan in the world, but you're not gonna get the people that can always possibly hold up into news.
And once we own it, even if the golf course wasn't successful, we would still own it and
Do what we want.
it's still viable, still viable to parties.
That golf course was always well used, it just wasn't maintained, I believe towards the end.
So that's where the number of the cost of the golf course comes in and maintenance.
I'm gonna guess he didn't spend money advertising and promoting it either.
I don't think that's.
When it's green. Yeah, I mean, just the last 5 years have been tough.
So all their watering has come from the ponds?
Ponds.
I've done a little research and some golf courses, and it's rare, but some golf courses are using artificial turf with tees and greens. Saves a lot of money.
You pay up front and then that's it. You pay initially up front and then
Yeah, it's
you don't have the
expensive.
maintenance.
It's expensive. Well, there's a little maintenance involved back in the end and stuff like that. It's
Well,
an
that would-
interesting idea.
Is that
would
considered?
fit into our vision statement for missions, for Muda Center to promote natural environment, sustainability and resiliency. Artificial turf, I don't know, but I think preserving the golf course as it is, as an open space and looking at trying to redevelop it as a golf course, I think makes more sense than trying to build 300 plus homes out there with the traffic on North Moodus Road. But I would,
Is artificial turf ever used on a high-end golf course? I mean, a good golf course uses artificial?
I couldn't find them.
Oh, okay. They use it. Public is probably where they get a lot of use, and probably where they do it. Can't keep, can't only have so many people, breaks all over your course.
Anything else on the golf course?
Had you considered doing it in phases?
What kind of phases?
Fixing 9 holes first and get that up and running, and then
Yeah, once you're into it, you really want to go through it, and because you want to do the whole thing, and it's the amount of cost is going to be returned at a relatively quick rate. Basically, that golf course, we're figuring that there's going to be, it's going to start off at 12,000 rounds on it per year, and we get them up into the 22 to 24,000 rounds a year. So the income is going to more than cover the debt service to the business. And so it makes more sense to do it all now, get it over with, and basically get the course up in nice condition. And that's how you're gonna advertise it. You wanna make a big presentation to get that customer base coming back. We've really lost it. It's been gone now for 5 years.
Where's that 12,000 figure come from?
Basically from the previous operators of the golf course. I mean, the golf course has been there for 60 years, and so some of the operators are still around, and also basically the figures that people that I've been working with can give a pretty good idea, and also the appraiser who did the appraisal on the golf. He had a tremendous amount of information on all our area golf courses, as far as how much play is on them, how much it costs to operate them, how much it costs to take and buy them, and it's all in a booklet, basically stating all the costs that were involved in running a golf course. And I think that they're showing positive dollars after 4 years.
To give you a,
I need your name, please, for the
Michael
record.
Callahan,
Thank you.
just to reiterate what Bob said, we talked to Minichog and the two courses in Hartford, Goodwin and Keeney, and they do 30,000 rounds a year. To give you a sense of how much play
Is Minichog owned by the town?
is owned by the town of Glastonbury.
Last
It's only a 9-hole course, and the town has said that was the biggest mistake they made, not keeping it as an 18-hole course.
That's an interesting point.
So that we get twice the amount of play.
You don't have to play the 18, you play the 9 if you want. You make that decision. The front or the back nine. Now, as planning and zoning in town, this hasn't come in front of us, and it may or may not come in front of us. So we can't make any recommendations or anything to the Board of Finance that we might like it or anything. Am I correct on that?
Not particularly, it's, I mean, when are you going to the Board of Finance, I mean?
In the next 2 to 3 weeks, maybe next month, maybe a month.
I mean, is the commission at a point where you might wanna say that at this point, we feel that it might be good to look into it and it might work for us, or do we wanna just keep quiet on it?
What about a by-committee special meeting?
I'm sorry?
How about a 2-committee meeting? We could meet with the economic,
Well, they've already made
I
their
mean, a
decision
joint-
on it and
I
stuff,
mean,
but I'm
later-
just saying from the Planning and Zoning Commission itself, that it might work for the town, you know, we might wanna.
Yeah.
I'm throwing it out to the commission, how they feel about that. And then you send a letter to the Board of Finance when they're starting to look at it, and maybe that will help them make their decision.
Yeah, well, my question is, we're still in the negotiation.
We will be even after we talk to basically the Board of Finance. I think it would give an indication if planning and zoning, I mean, you're the planners of the community. And I think that we need guidance from the planning and zoning to tell us, yes, this is something we think we should be looking into. And then if other boards are feeling the same way, it's helpful for EDC to know that planning and zoning, being the planners, knowing the situations out there, they basically approved it. So that they would be saying that, okay, we think it's worth looking into, that it has a value to the town, for the town to continue owning or to get this 18-hole, or save this 18-hole golf course. And not just let it all go into housing, which is not bad, but I mean, it's a case where I wouldn't wanna give up an 18-hole golf course for it. And it's an easy place to go out and build houses on, it's all open land, and but it's certainly something that we could never replace, and it will stay public. And I think that's the big thing, we see so many now, they're going private. And once they go private, they probably will not go back public. And so it would be a help for EDC to have a feeling from what planning and zoning is thinking, that you think it's something that we should continue to look into and think it does have value for the town to, or certainly for the town to have an 18-hole golf course.
would support a motion to send a letter.
Sorry, go ahead.
I would support discussion and motion to send a letter of support into the conceptual due diligence phase.
You don't think that's playing into the hand of the seller?
I don't think so.
You know,
We're not talking about money.
We're
We're not talking about money, we're saying
talking about,
if the commission wanted to send a letter of recommendation on the positive points of an acquisition, we're not talking about the bottom line. We're just saying, if you wanna say that it could assist economic development, it retains green space, it keeps a recreational facility open to the public, there's few and far between. You know,
we have off the.
and then,
Yeah, I know, I mean,
you know, then, but
this,
we're not, this commission isn't involved in price. We're involved in concepts.
who's watching us right now?
That, he knows how bad I am about when it comes to price.
If anything, we're trying to help them
If the
come
town's
up.
not interested in buying it, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
No, I'm
You-
not saying I'm
you-
against it.
No, I know,
Just
but, you know, I don't think it gives them, you know, I don't think we're playing into his hand or saying, you know, you're not so anxious that I need to have it, you know, tell me how much. Versus, yeah, we think it's a good idea and we should pursue the negotiation.
what about if we had Jim draw up a letter listing all those positive attributes?
Yeah, I thought that
I
was.
mean,
well
because
said.
some of that, I wouldn't be catching emotion like the, in the bud.
I think from a P and Z perspective, the turning a non-performing asset into a performing asset for the town is an advantage, and it would certainly enhance property values in the area, and it would dovetail into our vision for Moody Center, and also to reinforce the recreational opportunities that we have built East Haddam around, or that East Haddam represents, the disc golf, the you know, the mountain biking, not everyone's a golfer, but you know, it's just one other recreational opportunity that will draw people in, and that's an enhancement for the town. As opposed to maybe a large scale development that would not be.
Add what Susan said.
Thank you, Susan.
So do you want me to put together kind of bullet points and we amongst, cause it's not a motion to approve,
No,
it's just a letter of
recommending
recommendation.
because of certain reasons. that
And
we
I can
should
send
listen.
out tomorrow bullet
Send
points
out
and everybody
very
could look at
points.
it.
Send it out, let us all look at it before,
Yep.
and then we'll,
Next few weeks,
Yeah.
if you had something
Oh,
in
you could be
2
ready for next
weeks,
week.
that'd be great.
We may not even have a reason to have a next meeting. We've got nothing on the agenda,
and you're going on vacation.
not yet,
Okay.
not yet. No, that's
We're having a
August.
meeting before you leave.
Okay. But Susan, you brought up some very nice points. So,
Thank you.
or put it all together.
Let's get it all listed.
Jim, could you let us know?
Any comments, Rich? Sounds good. Any other discussion?
We need to vote.
No, we're not gonna, because it's, no. Deb,
I would just like to let everybody know, if they haven't been following the saga, that the Governor Lamont did veto the 5002 bill that would affect local planning and zoning, or bypass it actually. So he reluctantly vetoed it, and so we'll see what happens next session,
so
Yeah,
round
right.
10.
you still have a job?
Huh?
You still have our job?
There, it would totally bypass planning and zoning, so, you know,
We'll still get a big paycheck.
we could just cancel a meeting when those things came through our town.
I dog-eared that thing. I had all of it for it.
Yeah, apparently, there was a lot of reach out.
Well, the biggest problem is that it dropped it down to individuals who are spending, instead of 50%, 30% of their income on housing. That makes it very difficult when 1 out of 10 units under the housing program. It's just a very tough, I was reading it, I'm going, that's a tough push to make it affordable under the cost of construction.
There's a lot of problems with the math, a lot of the math is wrong, and also the math, it's kind of strange math because every time you set a goal, then it restarts it based on the new number, not the original number. So the math is,
Well, they had two sets of numbers that you're supposed to try to figure out. So I said,
Yeah,
okay.
bad bill, they just need to scrap it and start from the beginning actually.
Where are we with the tower?
It got extended till October to make a decision.
Or public input, or they're done on that part.
Part's closed.
The only thing we do have to meet on is master plan and it, because we only have a couple
Yep.
of weeks.
Okay,
So.
So I'll keep it.
We
Yep.
might have to meet.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true,
It
that's
might
true,
be a
yeah,
short
'cause
meeting,
yeah,
but
we
That's
do
fine.
have to,
we
yeah.
do have to get together on
I
it.
might
Yeah.
also be going out of town in August too, so if you need a special meeting, that's fine.
Yeah, you're right, forgot
So,
about that.
let's meet on that, we'll get that letter.
Yep.
Correct, you know, how we feel to EDC, so they know. I don't know if that goes to the Board of Selectmen or,
You could go to both.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we don't have to do it twice.
right, yeah, just one
I
letter,
mean, it's, you know,
so.
it's talking.
Anything else, Bob, that you
No,
guys
that
have?
would be very helpful when I go to the board of, because basically now we have something from the Board of Selectmen basically saying, you know, we wanna let you go and basically put it before the Board of Finance. And I think
And then from
and
planning
having
zoning.
something from planning just gives us a little more idea to, you know, that we would like to look into it and we'd like to take and see if it makes sense.
That's been talked about, other than through the commissions. Anyone have anything they'd like to bring up, talk about at this point?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Let me give you a copy of this
Oh,
back,
my
Jim.
camera's gonna work. Oh, I don't.
That was an interesting bill to take on and